Welcome back to another episode of Singapore's Real Estate Explained, brought to you by the GNA Investment Team. And today we'll be talking about a topic that a lot of people have been asking us recently. How do you own an HDB and at the same time still hold an investment property?
And yes, this is something that you had two of my subgroup mates came to ask me this week and say, hey, how this method, does it work? And how can I do that? So that's something that I was like, bro, I'm actually preparing right now.
Have loopholes, but we'll be sharing the legal loopholes.
Yes, it's not a loophole. It's actually legally creative. Yeah. But it's something that people do recognize because at the end of the day, these are the ways they can still own a HDB, which is something for own stay without having to pay ABSD and yet getting a investment property.
Yep.
So this presentation will be split into a few parts. Okay, the first one is where we're looking at what exactly is the wrong strategy. Out of 7, one of them is the most hefty one, the most costly one that people do it. I've seen one who did it just one of the buyers who came to one of the listings, she decided to buy my unit with ABSD. Okay, but then there are of course other 6 strategies where you can own a HDB and an investment property at the same time. Okay, then I will share with you the ideal strategy, which my subgroup are asking, is this the way for BTO owners or HDB owners to own a private property without ABSD? And last but not least is understand the repercussion of how do you retire through real estate investment strategy by one, using HDB as a defensive investment strategy and another by using condo as a form of investment. Yeah. So let's jump into it. Okay. So the first method, is
the wrong method.
Yeah. How do you own HDB?
Very straightforward. Just buy it after your MOP and pay the ABSD of 20%.
Yeah. So some people after MOP decide, okay, I feel rich today. I decided to help the nation a little bit. So they decided to sponsor the tax. So you can see over here, the very typical way in which some Singaporeans like to buy a second property is to pay for ABSD, which right now, after 2023 April, is 20%. So what does it mean? It means that on top of all the costing, you still have to pay a 20% additional buyer stamp duty to the government.
So if it's 2 million, you're going to pay 400k.
Yes. Let's not look at 2 million, look at 1 million, maybe 1 million. ABSD is also a $200,000. And this is just really taxes given to the government. Along with buyer stamp duty, 24k, which is what everyone had to pay. Legal costs, your miscellaneous costing is already 226,000.
Yeah.
Okay, and on top of down payment, 250k. Okay, it's even almost very close to a down payment. Means at the moment you buy this property, you already lost 226k. Yeah, so this is a very hefty way.
Haven't factor in your interest. When you want to exit, you have to pay another fee to exit.
Yes, selling costs. Total cash outlay also close to 500k, which can actually down pay for a close to 1.8 million property. Yeah, so there's some things that we will call it not the most wise way. There are definitely other instruments in the market that can make much more. And this ABSD is something that we I won't say avoid, but rather we hope to not go to if you can. Okay, so that's why we're jumping into the other 6 strategies you can actually get a HDB and investment property at the same time. Okay, so the first one, we look at is to be getting a condo and a HDB separately before getting married together. So this is one way where if, for example, you're age 35 and above, you're single, you can still buy a resale HDB. There's no restriction on what kind of rooms you can get. So you can buy one first, and the other person, don't have to be 35-year-old. It can be a 21, maybe not 21, maybe not 10 years difference. Maybe a 30-year-old individual who has saved enough money to buy a condo. They can buy a condo. Okay, so when they get married, the beauty is that, they can still retain both the HDB and the condo at the same time. Okay, so there's something is for singles out there who are above 35 and plan to get married. Maybe some of them are looking at 34-year-old. They are thinking, should I wait for 1 more year? I will say sometimes if the chemistry comes, just go ahead. But if you ever want to have one property each, some people do wait. So there's something depends on what is your personal preference. So this is one way you can own a HDB and a condo as a matrimonial couple.
But I think one thing to also note for this method is that when you guys get married, the person that's holding the condo will likely be put under as an occupier because they're under a family entity for the person that's holding the HDB. So even though you're not an owner, but you will still be an occupier. That means, for example, if the person holding the condo decides to sell it 3 years later, they cannot immediately enter into another private because you would have to wait for the HDB to complete its 5-year MOP.
Correct. So if you are just 2 years in, you cannot immediately just transit the next property. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So this is the first method. Okay. Second method. Okay. Before we move to second method, yes, there's this common misconception. It used to be doable.
Yeah.
With Jerry's parents was in it last time. Having 2 HDB.
You go and buy first.
But
go and buy
long
first.
time ago, that was like 10, 15 years. The government came in with a loophole, with the clamping of this loophole, where last time, if you are single, you'll have a HDB, and another person is single and a HDB, they come together, they can own 2 HDB. But right now, because the government decided to say HDB is a rare commodity, they don't want people to make this loophole, so they took it off. So they say that if this would happen, one individual had to sell off the other HDB.
Yeah.
So goodbye to this method. So there's something in case people wonder, I want to own HDB, 2 HDB. In Singapore now, it's currently not allowed. All right. So that's why I move on to the second method, okay, which is the third strategy. This one way, but I would say it cannot be controlled because it's owning a condo and HDB through inheritance.
Yep.
Okay, so how it works is if you were to have HDB currently, a resale HDB, okay, and this HDB, take note, you must fulfill a 5-year MOP already, okay, it must stay in HDB, okay, stay in HDB. If your parents were to pass away, what happens? You can inherit the parents' condo without incurring any ABSD. Okay, but take note, you cannot stay in a condo. Okay, you must rent out the condo because HDB is just seen as a home that's for own stay. So this is one way that in an unfortunate situation, you're still able to own a HDB and condo at the same time. Okay, but this is something that can be controlled. So I would say it's exception that people have to just take note.
Yeah.
Right?
But if it was the other way around where you're owning a HDB, where you're owning a condo, can you then inherit HDB?
I know. So that's the downside. So because once you're a condo, you're a condo owner.
Yeah.
One way to inherit HDB, you cannot be owning a private.
Can I get to sell your HDB? Sell your condo.
Sell your HDB or condo and stay in one. So you have to choose one. So that's why some people, they do consider this as an option.
But also one thing to note is once you inherit the HDB, if you do decide to keep the HDB, your MOP then restarts from when you take over the HDB. So then you're also limited to a 5-year MOP before you can do anything with the property itself.
Yes, indeed. All right. So next up, okay, is of course diversifying other asset classes.
Yes.
Where if you own a HDB, okay, you can after 5 MOP, okay, you can actually buy into commercial. Yeah, so this is where you can diversify. You can look into other asset yield, which just an example itself is like industrial, where if you were to buy into one with high passive income, there's no ABSD, you can own multiple of them. Okay, but downside, of course, industrial SSD, need to wait for 3 years before you can sell, or there's a costing to it. And you can still achieve, say, about 10% per annum yield after netting all the costs. But all this industrial, the one downside is, of course, it usually have less than 30-year lease, 40-year lease. There's no, a free industrial doesn't really warrant the yield that you want. So this is something that you have to consider.
I think the gameplay for industrial is very different from residential.
Yes.
The factors they are looking at is also very different, which a lot of people are unsure of also.
Yeah, so there's definitely higher risks involved and there's small factors you have to consider. All right.
So for people who are interested in exploring the industrial side, maybe Chris, you can just share some of your examples, some of your case studies since you've owned multiple industrial properties and how their returns are. Okay. What are some of the things that you looked out for in the past when you shortlisted the unit, and what is the yield looking like for you? Okay,
so that's quite a few questions, but maybe what I can do is I can share a little bit about my case study, which was bought about 4 or 5 years back, when industrial property was much cheaper back then as compared to now, where some have already been overvalued, and because of UPlay may not be able to fetch something similar. But if this is something that unit that is left a 23-year lease, it was actually on why we bought it. It was just because of the rental yield. It was hitting a max of 9 to 10, which was minimal criteria for something that is below 30 years. So we were 360K. The rental per month was back then about 3,000. Subsequently, within the next 1 to 2 years' time, it actually went to close to 4,000, 4,005 because of certain asset enhancement. But we just take 3,000 as a base. So 3,000, okay, is 36K per annum. In 3 years, this is about 108K in terms of the rental income. Okay, down payment for this was about 72K. Okay, that was back then. Loan was 80% or 288K. Okay, for 18 years. Money mortgage about 1,006 per month. Okay, so we break down interest-wise. Interest back then was 1.5%, but later on it went up to like 4. So I say every 2.5 is about 600 per month. So if I think all the costing in general, like stamp duty, 5,000 for low interest, I mentioned just now about 21,000, accounting fee, bank facility fee, property tax and maintenance fee. You net off everything. This is something that we were looking at, okay, in terms of net gains. Okay, so in the end, about less than 6 months, 7 months ago, I sold about 518K.
Yep.
Capital gain was about 158K. But if you were to add this, include rental income minus away all the costing, the net gain is about $215,000. Okay, so I get back about close to 300K. Okay, that gives you about close to 299% ROE after 3 years. Means I put in 72K, I get back 300K, net about 215K. So that gives you about 100% return per annum or 50%, 4% compounded.
Yep.
But of course, this is something that was more, I would say, a exception because the deals that we find for this kind of industrial property, out of 200, there's only one. And that's something we had to keep. I remember I went to find at least 100, give you 100 properties before I was almost going to faint. But that was a part of homework. And that's something that we had to find before we can narrow down to one, which was about undervalued, about 40, 50K undervalued. So there's some things that we do, we take note, but today to get something below 500K is quite impossible. At least you need close to 801 million, and the yield that you get may not be as high as what you see in the past, especially a high interest rate environment today. Yeah, so it's something that just a perspective, but of course to replicate it is not as easy now as compared to before.
So who would you say, let's say, what kind of portfolio would you say can consider or should consider industrial?
Yeah, so for industrial, most of them is mainly looking into retirement, passive cash flow. So for now, you want to circulate and make capital appreciation not as high as compared to before. Yeah, so there's something to take note. Okay, in fact, I have another scenario, typical scenario, which, okay, there are a lot of numbers here, but long story short, is looking at buying a longer lease property, about 40 to 50 years, 800K, okay, to 1 million. Your down payment need about 160 to 200K. Okay, along with all the buy and duty, you need at least about 220 to 230 now to even enter something. But even after everything, I will run through all the numbers because there's something you can discuss off topic. You still get about close to 14.4% or 9.62% compounded per annum. Yep. It's not as high as before, so there's something that, and of course, you must look at a longer term perspective. Yeah, the packet money also, we won't get like maybe the 1.5K, 2K, even like something like this, you only get about 1K plus or lower than 1K. So there's something that you may not be expecting as much as compared to the past. Right, so this a perspective that I hope to give everyone a very quick summary of industrial. And next up, another method to get an investment property while holding a HDB. Same thing, 5 MOP. Okay, you can then get an overseas property. But of course, I have my fair share of bad experience.
Because you have also invested in
an overseas property.
I think you were the testing rat to go and see how the market is doing.
Yeah, and I was burned. Okay, I would say it was this place at Philippines. I bought one unit, one beta there, and then I found out that, hey, the lender is actually cheaper than the one beta there. So after paying for like 2 years, 3 years of progressive pay, I decided that, okay, maybe I rather not. And what I've noticed is, one thing to note, if you do an overseas property, there's this currency exchange risk. Yep. Where if the currency of Singapore grows higher than that of the other, like what happened to Malaysia, a lot of people went to Malaysia, they make money in terms of paper gain. But they lost
in ringgit. But if you were to convert that, because last time it's 1 to 2, now it's 1 to 3.
Yes,
so in that sense, you actually lost quite a significant amount in that.
So they probably appreciate 20% for some of our clients who actually went to Malaysia to buy, because the exchange rate, they lost out 40%. So net, they had a loss with poor tenancy rate. So these are some things that, I mean, it's not something that we are still in the way exploring, being dirty on the ground to try things out. But before I finalize, there's something that is a consideration, but not our priority right now.
Yeah, because I think due diligence have to be done, regardless of whether it's in real estate or not, especially for something being overseas. You don't know the culture, you don't know how people value their properties overseas. There's a lot of work to be done. So unless you are very, very sure in terms of the numbers wise, and maybe you have someone there to kind of look over you, I would say the risk is on the higher end because you're not physically there to help to manage the assets. Yeah.
And someone must be trusted, which is someone over there that you know personally, which something that's why we sometime, since we really want to venture overseas because of this main factor. All right. So 6, okay, it is something that people may know, trust deed, okay, where basically you buy under your children, okay, who is below 21 year old, and you pay full cash, and there's this amount which is called ABSD, additional by 65%, which can be claimable. So it's a high cost, but there's one way. Even though HDB, it can be done to buy a private property. Okay, but I think no, trust can be bought for HDB. It's only for private property. Yeah. And one loophole, I wouldn't say loophole, is a way to ease out your cash flow, is that since most people, okay, you need to have a lot of cash, number one. And for example, 2 million property, your ABSC is already $1.3 million. Yeah, but the beauty of this is that this is one way you can tap on the progressive payment of new launches. A lot of people do that for trust deed, is because when you buy a new launch, they don't have to call the entire 2 million right at the start. It's progressive. So if you were to buy something and you can easily pay a 1.3 million of ABSD, down payment is about 25%, but buy stamp duty is about 469K. Okay, if you have money about close to 1.8 million, what people do is they'll pay down bit by bit. Okay, 200K, 100K, and when you reach TOP, they flip. So they don't pay the entire 2 million. They can just simply leverage on a progressive payment scheme and pay in tranches, and subsequently, once in 3 years, flip, and they don't have to drain out all the resources on the 2 million property.
Yeah, but normally if you have 1.8 sitting around in cash, you would probably be able to free up both names to own like a private each.
Yes.
So there's really like, if for some reason HDB has a lot of sentimental values and for some reason you don't want to release it, I guess this is a way that you can consider.
Yes, indeed. But unlikely, there's actually much more returns if you diversify into other things than putting full cash. That's why for me, trust is not something that is my preference, because I realize the returns, I mean, it's not very high.
A lot of equity is being locked inside.
Yes, and it's illiquid. And you may potentially get something higher elsewhere. All right. So that's why it boils down to the last point, the last strategy, which I think a lot of people have been waiting for and understanding and asking me, what exactly is this method and how does it work? Okay, so this method is basically called the owner-occupier ownership method. So how it works is this way. Okay, when you buy a HDB, okay, you can list yourself as two kinds of individual. One is the owner. Okay, another title is called occupier. So the difference is the owner can tap on their CPF, their loan, they can borrow to buy this property. But occupier is just placed as a name. Okay, and to fulfill the minimum criteria to buy a HDB. So like this is usually done for young couples. Okay, basically when they buy a property, one individual will be the owner, the other will be listed as an occupier. Okay, and it's either when you buy a resale HDB, okay, which is very, very or like a low value resale HDB, or BTO. Okay, you can actually put in application. Okay, so what's crucial, okay, to list it as owner occupier rather than owner is because the beauty of this method, okay, done once in a lifetime. Once, okay, why? Because
you cannot go back.
You cannot go back.
If you choose wrong, you cannot go back.
Yeah, so it's either you got it settled, or you just get it wrong and then you can never get it.
You cannot say owner, and then now that you cannot say I want to decouple HDB and change to owner occupier. Once you're owner, you cannot go back.
Yes.
So if you want to do this, you have to do this right at the start.
Right at the start. So it's done upon purchase of the resale HDB or the BTO application, okay, where you place your owner occupier. Why is it important? Okay, because the beauty of this method is that, okay, before the government really close out this loophole, hopefully not, I quite loophole, there's a grace, like this grace, okay, to us Singaporeans, is that this occupier, after fulfilling a 5-year MOP, or say in the HDB, they are allowed to buy a condominium, okay, without incurring ABSD. Okay, so this is a way that a lot of DBTO couple, they are asking me, they say, okay, I actually can afford, I want to buy a condo next time, but I want to keep my HDB. I don't want to sell my HDB. What can I do? This is the only method they can do. But
to do that, you also have to make sure that your loan for the owner can cover the loan needed for the home. If let's say one person is not enough, then you can't go for this method.
Yes, and
because
that's why
you cannot tap on the occupier.
There are criteria. So you can see in this slide itself, there are total of, I would say, 5 criteria. Okay, 4 main criteria to fulfill this method. Number 1, as I mentioned, done during purchase and BTO application. Okay, if you do it later, okay, you can reverse. But I think there's some question that people ask me. In fact, the 2 segments asked me, they actually already put owner. And they're waiting for the BTO for the keys. Okay, so there could be, but 50-50 chance that you write in to apply. Okay, before you collect your keys, you may still be able to revert this owner status back to occupier.
Once you collect your keys, done deal.
Done deal. Yeah,
Chop.
that's
change.
The final call. But this, once again, this method of reverting to occupier, now they're writing in. Just okay, let's try this. But it's case by case. So based on reasons, HDB may not want to accept okay, and still let you be an owner. Okay, but one thing to take note, another criteria is I mentioned just now, some things, this occupier can only purchase a condo after 5 years, the MOP, okay, after MOP period. And what you mentioned for Grace, we will run through example later. Take note, for this owner, okay, the downside of this method is that you can only use the single owner's income to support the loan. You cannot use the single owner's CPF to support the purchase. Anything that's linked to occupier in terms of income or in terms of CPF cannot be used. Yeah, so this is a restriction that's why it limits the purchasing power. Not everyone can do it, but there's a way if one individual for owner is a high income earner, the other one maybe is not as a high income, they can actually tap on this method to get a property.
Yeah.
Okay. And last but not least, take note, both of this individual, okay, so we're owner, the owner must be a Singapore citizen. It cannot be a PR. PR and PR cannot execute this method. Right? So what does it mean that the owner income must be able to support the property purchase in terms of a loan? Okay, this is an example that we use. If the purchase price is $500,000, okay, buyer's stamp duty is $9,600, okay, which is paid to the government.
Yep.
Legal cost missing is about $1,000. Down payment is about 25%, $125K. Number one, you need to have at least $135K600 for 500K property that only the owner can use his CPF to pay them. Yeah, so you cannot involve. So you need at least close to 100+ K of savings, which you need to do in like 4 or 5 years. So this is something that either from parent support or your own savings is very important. But something that a lot of people tend to feel, especially for new couples who just started work, is that, for example, you buy a 500K property, your loan outlay, you need about 75%, with close to 375K. So for this loan, you need to have at least close to 6,000 of income in order to borrow this loan. And the key thing is and this is for HDB loan.
Yep.
If bank loan, you will need even higher income. Okay, and not just that, the owner must be working for at least 12 months to be able to get this HFE or this loan application.
Yep.
Okay, and most importantly, in terms of the purchaser, okay, for the occupier, if they want to buy a condo next time, okay, this method will also only work if the occupier income can go up in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
If the occupier income is only hovering at 3,000 or 4,500, or this person is a housewife, then regardless owner occupier, it doesn't matter, because the occupier must be able to afford the condo. And notice that usually is a 5 to 10 year plan. They need to save up the down payment for the condo too. So that's something that you must do. So if you are owner, don't be too sad. I mean, at the end of the day, there's other ways you can reinvest your portfolio to get something better, right? So with this, we come to the last part, which is about how exactly do you use this method to create a defensive play for a asset class. Okay, so if you take a look at how it works over here, is that if the owner stay in the HDB and the occupier has a condo, one is a mortgage of 4,600, the HDB has a mortgage of 1,008. If the HDB is rented out about close to 4,000, okay, you'll get about 2K additional to be able to fund part of the mortgage for the condo. So it makes the condo more livable in terms of like the monthly mortgage.
Yep.
Okay, and notice that unlike if you buy the one condo, most likely there won't be as much passive cash flow.
Correct. So the rental may not cover lah.
Yeah, for condo kind of play, but of course you will be able to gain in terms of capital appreciation, which is a big topic which we cover next time. All right. So with this, we come to this concept of how the difference in investment route can actually lead to a different outcome. Because just a small change, like same thing, real estate is about choices, a decision that you make in your life by changing to a owner and occupier method while being stuck in the HDB. If you are able to enter into an investment, maybe save another 10 more years, age of 39, and start to invest in a condo, and every 4 years, you earn about 150 to 200 for a start, and subsequently, when property value get bigger, you can subsequently go to a higher quantum returns. At the end of the day, the final returns you can get, okay, as compared to a HDB downsize with cash on 300K of retirement to a 3-room flat, you can get almost close to $2 million.
Yeah.
In the next 20 years for us, 6 to 7 cycle of property purchase. Okay, at the same time, if you compare to the last part, which is using this method, of course, it's good. I mean, you can hold the HDB, enjoy the space. But one thing is, if you're able to upgrade to a resale condo subsequently, Okay, and subsequently using one more name as a investor to enter the property investment, you can actually get another 1.7 million more. So you can see it's always a relative perspective.
Yeah.
I'm using 39-year-old over here is also because of the fact that it takes some time to save out this amount. So it's a very typical amount that you can already make from your first HDB, that usually a BTO, and subsequently transiting into different investments that can allow you to compound, and this compounds over time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's something that we do look into, and this is the difference between the different routes on terms of investment for both HDB, condo, and condo.
Yeah, so I think with all of this, right, you can see that there are actually multiple ways you can kind of restructure a portfolio. I think based on different families' needs, based on their finances, it may work a little bit differently.
Yep.
Ultimately, the key on what we always follow by is affordability. Means you should never overstretch yourself to, let's say, I can go for like 2 condos right now. But when I do that, your funds are all depleted.
Yes.
Month to month, your cash flow is very, very unhealthy. You're going to be stretching yourself. Then I'll say maybe it's not time yet. Start with one. From the first one, gain the first pot of gold, and then later on move on to the second one, rather than immediately kickstart, and it's just going to be very dangerous, very risky.
Indeed. Yeah, so always start small, and subsequently, when things compound, you're able to reap the benefits.
Start small is better than don't start.
Yes, yeah, right.
But don't overstart.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think with that, we come to the end of the video. If you're someone that is, having the question on should I stay put, should I move, how should I move, should it be like 2, or should I start with 1, and you want to speak to someone to kind of look through your options, then also feel free to contact us at our WhatsApp QR code over here, and we'll have someone speak to you guys. Okay, and with that, we'll see you next time. This is Grace.
This is Christian.
Bye-bye.
Bye.